Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Hi. Right, sorry, I just need to settle down. I just met Pat Cleveland, so I am feeling slightly excited and a little bit hysterical. Great, well, thank you all for coming. I just have to figure out how all this technology works. Okay, so I'm here today. I'll just tell you a bit about myself in case you don't know. I live in London. I'm a fashion editor. I worked for years on women's glossy magazines, and then I left about 10, 12 years ago now to go freelance. And around that time when the internet was going pop. But this is just to sort of recap. This is where it all began. This is my hometown, which is in the north of England. It's called Blackpool, and it's not far from Manchester. So that's where I was born, and that's what it looked like when I was. That's what it looked like in the olden days when I was growing up there. And then I went on to become a student and studied fashion in Manchester, and I dug out that old student card. So you can see I had some quite interesting hairdos back in the day. And then I was a fashion, I didn't go straight from graduating to being a fashion editor. That would have been fantastic. There was a bit in between, but I'm sort of... I'm good, but I'm not that good. There was a bit in between where I was doing other stuff, being a fashion assistant and that kind of thing. But then I ended up on Good Housekeeping magazine, which is part of Hearst Corporation, and I know you have one here. So yes, got to work with lots of fabulous women there. That's Nigella, who I think you all know, and people like Twiggy, Nigella, Yasmin Le Bon, lots of really amazing women of all different ages. So these are just a few of the pages, tear sheets from those days back at Good Housekeeping. So I started sort of writing all about fashion and grown-up style when I was at Good Housekeeping. And very hilariously one day, one of my friends must have been at the doctor's surgery, and she was sort of waiting to go in and picked up an old copy of Good Housekeeping magazine and was reading it. And then when I saw her, she said, "I was reading Good Housekeeping, and it doesn't, I was reading your page and it doesn't sound anything like you." And it didn't, because when you are on a magazine, you talk in a house style, you talk in the style of the magazine, which is quite prescriptive. So when I left to go freelance, I started thinking about all of these, mulling over all of these things about kind of writing about style, giving advice, talking to women of my age and above. And so started blogging, as that's not my age. And basically, oh God, sorry, no, I've missed a bit out. I also got a job lecturing part-time at university in fashion journalism. And when I got there, I'd been writing features for a couple of very popular websites. And so my head of department said to me, "Oh, great, you know all about online journalism and blogging, you can teach that." And at the time, I didn't even know what blogging was, so I had to sort of go away, think about it. And that's when I set up That's Not My Age. I was just sort of tinkering around, really, online and trying to keep one step ahead of the students. So I just felt like the fashion industry really, the focus is on the youth, on young people, and I felt like this is 8 years ago now when I started blogging, and I just couldn't understand why there was this amazing demographic of gorgeous, fabulous, inspirational women that were being largely ignored. And so that was the idea behind That's Not My Age, and the name came from, I suppose, it was sort of twofold. Partly kind of couldn't quite believe how old I was, and the other thing was, well, age doesn't really matter anyway. So anyway, this was a platform for me just to continue a conversation about style with women of all ages, really. And I wanted to talk to them. My friend, I kept coming back to my friend saying to me, like, didn't sound like you when she picked up the magazine. So I sort of wanted it to sound more like me and to be friendly and warm and approachable. But also, when I worked on the magazine as well, my colleague and I used to, I've mentioned already, the sort of like talking to people in a very prescriptive way, like when you're in your 30s, you wear this, when you're in your 40s, you wear that, when you're 50s, you wear this, 50 is the new 30, all of that kind of thing, which we used to call fashion bollocks. So I basically wanted to cut through all of that and just talk to people as I would talk to you if I met you, and just be a bit more honest and open about style and fashion. So I didn't really like this pigeonholing. I didn't like the idea that, yes, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that. I think women should be able to wear what they like. We should wear what we like, what makes us happy, whatever your age. Another thing as well that really bothers me is the whole invisibility thing. It's kind of like men get to a certain age, sort of our grey-haired contemporaries get to a certain age and they're seen to be very wise, very knowledgeable, very experienced, and women are kind of dismissed because, when you're beyond your childbearing years, you suddenly don't exist in the UK, in Parliament, there are very few women in Parliament. We see very few women on TV that are above a certain age. So again, this was the thing also. I wanted to champion these women. I wanted to show images of women that I thought were amazing and inspirational. And who are my role models? I think it's important for all of us to have role models, whatever our age. And these were women of substance who I admired for their achievements, for their style. And I think that's one good thing that the internet has done. I think it really has increased the visibility of older women online. It's given us a platform that didn't exist in traditional media. And that is very empowering. There's a sort of power in that increased visibility of older women. So anyway, I started blogging, and when I was writing the book, I was trying to think of a term that summed up kind of all of these women, all of my role models, what I could call them. And there's various sort of trend forecasting agencies that call it, come up with ideas like calling it the flat age society. Like kind of, it's you get to a certain age and then it kind of plateaus out. And I just sort of thought flat age. I don't like that at all. I don't like the idea of flat. When you think of flat, the word association is like flat tires, flat champagne. That's not good. That sort of didn't do it for me. So I kind of came up with the idea of Generation Fab, 50 and beyond, or 50 and brilliantly stylish. And again, these are the role models. I think also I think there's also have a slight problem with the terminology that's used to describe women in particular, that I think it's quite a diverse group and we're all kind of bunched together and bombarded with things that are age appropriate or anti-aging, and I think the message that sends out, I think we need to sort of fight against that a little bit and not accept it. And I think generally we do. Sort of 8 years down the line, there's a whole load of women like myself that are standing their ground and saying, well, actually, we don't like anti-aging. It's or age appropriate. Age appropriate is inappropriate. Anyway, so I then, as part of the book, I got to interview lots of fabulous women, lots of my role models. One of them was Cindy Joseph, who I'm sure you all know, who is a model and a founder of a beauty company. Had a great chat with her on the phone. She lives in California, and I loved this quote that she sort of, there's lots of stuff in my book, but this was sort of one thing that sort of stood out, where she said, it's crazy how people will pay so much money for like a beautiful black and white photograph of Georgia O'Keeffe, and then one look in the mirror and they freak out because they've got like a couple of wrinkles. So anyway, I had there's a more in-depth piece in the book about her, but I just she was one of my inspirational women. And here are a few more, and these are just. I just want to show you a few images that are inspirational to me, really. And again, it's just that increasing the visibility of women that are over 40 and beyond, really. I think there is definitely in our society there's a fear of aging, and I just wanted to take a more positive view on that. And I think now we've reached a point actually where we've reached what I call I think style is ageless, and I think we've reached a point where it is sort of ageless. We all carry iPhones, we wear similar clothes to women in their 30s or older. I think there's been definitely been a blending of generations. So another one of my heroines, unfortunately I didn't get to interview Inés de la Versange, but I kind of this is sort of my approach, really. And she said, look, you start aging at 18, I'm 55 now, I'm pretty used to it. And I sort of think that's what the internet has done as well. It's enabled women like myself to say, well, you know what, this is what I look like, this is what I wear, get over it. And one thing I found when I started blogging was that I kind of met all these other like-minded women online, and started this conversation. And that's one of the wonderful things about it, just having this conversation with women that were sort of saying the same things, and not really following the sort of cliched fashion rules that you see in magazines, and the sort of just online, doing our own thing, wearing what we like, publishing outfit of the day, pictures of themselves doing it. Okay, so just a couple of things that I've learned about fashion. That's me looking a bit more glamorous than I do today for a photo shoot with proper hair and makeup done. The book is the publishers wanted me also to include some tips and advice, but like I said, I didn't want it to be patronizing. One of the things I thought when I was working on magazines was that often I'm talking to intelligent women, I don't need to tell you if you like something, buy two of it. And things like that. So these are just a couple of things that I've learned about fashion. And I do think, when I say don't waste money on cheap clothes, I mean kind of fast fashion, like all that kind of careless consumerism. I was reading something the other day that because of Instagram and selfies, like there's an increase in the number of people buying fashion just to sort of so they can change outfits and show a different image on Instagram, which are, the idea of which revolts me, quite frankly. Anyway, yes, so just a couple of things I've learned about fashion, which hopefully aren't all kind of just things that, I've learned along the way, and aren't bossy boots fashion rules. It's just some stuff that you may or may not agree with. Sling the Spanx, don't agree with that. I believe in feeling comfortable, feeling happy, not feeling constricted, wearing what you like, basically. Another thing that I think is hugely, hugely important is the use of mature models, which we are seeing an increase in now. But when I started, it was very rare that you would see an older model. And so that's, I was banging on about that quite a lot in the early days, and just sort of saying, well, you know what, I'm 51 now, and I kind of thought, I don't want to see all these airbrushed images of teenagers. They are meaningless to me. And I also kind of call myself a Botox-free blogger, because I was kind of anti the idea that women aren't allowed to age, you have to sort of look a certain way, and I kind of used to say, oh, well, I'm not going to mess with my face. I'd rather look old than odd. And I think I'm not alone. There's a lot of women who don't buy into the anti-aging, younger is better model, and the pressure to look a certain way. I think style is individual, and we should do what we want and wear what we want and be ourselves. So anyway, there are some statistics as well that obviously that back all this up, and I think if you were here yesterday, I know you had a chat from someone else that was, talking about similar issues, but I think right now in the world, 1 in 4 women are over 50. In 5 years' time, it's going to be 1 in 3 women that are over 50, and then in 50 years' time, 50% of the world will be of women in the world will be over 50. So that there's a lot of us about. Anyway, just to sort of come back to the older models thing, there was research by a Cambridge University student a couple of years ago. He's called Ben Berry, and he kind of monitors female consumer responses to fashion, and he actually proved that women, when they see adverts of people that look like themselves, then they are more inclined to buy, which, to us makes complete sense, but it seemed to take the fashion industry and these big brands quite a long time to sort of come around to realizing that, hey, the power of the silver spend, as we call it. And back in 1990, Isabella Rossellini was dropped by Lancôme when she reached 40, which now seems completely ridiculous. When we are, like I said, brands have come around to it, and L'Oreal are very good at this. I know they have Helen Mirren and other women. And, when you think about that being dropped for being 40, well, Kate Moss is 40, and she's, so, the times they've changed, thankfully. Iris Apfel was another woman that I was fortunate enough to interview on my phone for Style Forever, and I called her. I loved calling Iris's house. It was so amazing. In fact, the best thing about writing my book was speaking to and meeting all these really inspirational women, my style heroines, and Iris was fantastic, sharp as a decorative hat pin. And she said some very brilliant things, and I loved I love her style, and I love her attitude and her mindset. And she said old age, it's treated like a disease. And she also said to me, I've got some friends that I've known for a long time who won't admit to me how old they are, which is quite ridiculous because I've got a pretty good idea. But again, this is sort of, she was saying this was sort of 2014 when I was talking to Iris, putting my book together, and she's just, said, oh, it's ridiculous. The fashion labels, brands are coming round finally, but, to show us images of 16-year-old models that have been retouched to the hilt, older women don't buy into that. They don't get it. We don't like it. It just annoys us. So just a few more bits and pieces that I've learned about fashion. It's like I said, I think you should wear what you like, wear what you feel happy in. And I figured that out pretty quickly when I was writing the book, but then I had to sort of carry on interviewing people and researching it because that's more of a tweet than a book. So I just think I really would encourage people to just feel comfortable in what they wear and in their clothes and in themselves. And as Marilyn Monroe said, if I'd observed all the rules, I'd have never got anywhere. Oh, another one of my things is I think it's important to wear comfy shoes. I don't think anyone ever looked glamorous when their feet hurt. So, and just a few more of my role models. When I started Style Forever, and basically it is a book of the blog, my blog That's Not My Age, and I just wanted to empower women, really. I wanted to write a guide for older women, and I wanted it to be fun, and I wanted it to be informative, but I also, and to continue that conversation that I'd started online. I think when we reach a certain age, I think we've kind of worked out what we like to wear and what suits us and what makes good fashion sense. And we're not going to, and again, it's back to the ageless style thing. I do think that we're kind of we're not going to follow fickle trends. We're more interested in sort of timeless, ageless style, comfort and ease. And I think much more inclined to go for stylish pieces over trend-driven fashion. And we want inclusivity as well. We want to see these clothes being shown on women that look like us, that resemble us. And I think women want to look good and feel good about themselves. And sometimes, the fashion, the tyranny of the fashion industry doesn't allow that. Another woman I interviewed was Linda Rodan, who also was really wonderful and amazing to talk to. And then I had, she was in London last year, and so I managed to meet up with her too. And I love her approach, and she just said, health is the most important thing. And she said, it's not easy. It's the Joan Crawford thing, isn't it? Growing old age is not for sissies, and this is what Linda was reiterating, really. She just said, it is hard. It is hard when you're in the public eye, and every morning you wake up and you feel worse than you did the day before and a bit more wrinkly. But health is more important. And she said, if wrinkles are the only thing I've got to worry about, then that's not a problem, is it? That's and I like the advice that one of her friends gave to her, to forget about the wrinkles and focus on the silhouette. I think that's good, sound fashion advice. That's Inner Stilla Fressange on this side. And Fiona Bruce is a newsreader. She is one of the newsreaders on BBC Newsnight in the UK. And I think she's about 58, so I wanted to include her because it's quite a rare thing in the UK to see a woman that age reading the news, and she does it brilliantly. And there's me again. And also, this is one of, I'm sure you are all aware of Ari Seth Cohen's amazing blog, Advanced Style. And I've also been fortunate enough to meet Ari a couple of times as well. And he has been an inspiration to me because I saw what he was doing all those years ago, and I thought, I like that, I love that, what a fantastic idea. But he focuses on, an older generation. I thought, I want to do that, but focus on sort of my generation of women sort of in the middle years. And unfortunately, I'm not a great photographer, so I can't go out on the street like Ari does and find all these amazing people, so I just write about them. This is Baroness Susan Greenfield, who was another one of my inspirational women, and I liked what she said. She's quite anti-social media and stuff. She's not on Twitter or any of that, so I liked her approach. She was sort of coming at things from a different angle, and she just said, I don't want to be young again. Maturity and experience give you that confidence, and it is wonderfully liberating. Just a few more gorgeous women. This is Professor Wendy Dagworthy, who has now retired. She was just leaving the Royal College of Art when I caught up with her for my book, and she is also one of the people that set up London Fashion Week in the UK. So she's a very big figure in fashion over in London. And, again, it's just sort of like sending out a positive message. And she said she doesn't get mind getting older. And I just believe that you make the most of your life. And she had a business of her own fashion label in the 80s, which folded, which was fantastic, which was a shame it folded, really. But the industry back then wasn't the same as the industry is now. And so there were lots of fabulous people that came out of art college and were producing these amazing collections that weren't getting the financial backing that we see now. The fashion industry wasn't quite the same back then. Anyway, her business folded, and she said, you know what, when my company closed, I didn't keep harking back to the good old days. I just moved on to the next phase of my life. So then we got to a point where all of a sudden, age is the rage, which has sort of changed over the years that I've been blogging and writing about this. So I write for The Guardian, and I write for the FT in the UK, and also for the Daily Mail. So I write for most of the the big papers. But for The Guardian, I do regular online features, all relating to age and style. So I did something this week about the menopause, and I've written about Helen Mirren for L'Oreal, and going grey, and all of the issues that basically women beyond a certain age face. So anyway, not so long ago, all of a sudden, we were seeing fabulous women like Joan Didion, Helen Mirren, all over the place. This is, I spoke to Justine Picardy as well, who is the editor of Harper's Bazaar in the UK. And I like what she said. She sort of said, you know, this is a tremendously powerful demographic, and that can't be ignored any longer. Many of us define ourselves as being feminist, and you know, you can be a feminist and be interested in fashion. The two aren't mutually exclusive. And I'm sure you will recognize Sue Kreitzman, who lives part of the time in New York and most of the time in London. And I was lucky enough to go around to Sue's house, which is very Sue Kreitzman-like, an amazing, amazing place with all her art, bright red rooms, all the walls painted red, all her artwork and found objects decorating all the walls. It's just absolutely amazing to see. And Sue calls this the old lady revolution, which I like a lot. And so out of all of this came my book, Style Forever, which, as I said, continuation of what I've been saying over the years and talking about online, both on my site, That's Not My Age, and for The Guardian, and other magazines. And it's beautifully illustrated by Leo Greenfield. And here are some of the illustrations. You might recognize Iris. The woman on your right is a milliner from London called Thelma Spears. Well, she's a milliner and a DJ. And this is Linda Rodan on your right. And then Kay Montano on the left, and she's a very famous makeup artist. Who works with Vogue, all over the world really, with Vogue, and has her own website with Tandy Newton, the actress, called Tandy K. And she's a very interesting woman, actually, and feels very strongly about age and inclusivity, and said to me, actually, which made me laugh, that I can't, you know, I just think it's dreadful that the woman who's the most famous woman in the world, Kim Kardashian, famous for making, you know, a sex tape. How did we come to this? You may recognize me alongside some of my icons. And this was a feature that ran in the Times in the UK. Sorry? This was in the Times in London. And, my book launched slightly earlier. It launched here in September, but it launched in March in the UK. So had a fair amount of coverage in the Times and the Telegraph. And was on the front cover, which made my mum very proud. And then this was just a comment. This is one, as well as introducing and meeting all these wonderful women, I've had some really lovely comments on my site and also emails from people. And this popped up the other day when I posted that I was coming to New York and I was going to be talking here. And one of my followers called Judy said this, and it brought a tear to my eye. And I just love this idea. I don't even think I can see it. I'm getting a bit emotional. She just said, your book lives on my bedside table, and when I went to see a friend earlier in the week, she took me up to her room to show me the new curtains, and there was your book on our bedside table too. And that I just thought it was so touching and so moving, and I would like to imagine it selling millions and being in millions of bedrooms across the world, obviously. That would be very nice. And then I'm kind of coming to the end now, but I thought maybe we could just, if anyone's got any questions or anything, we can, I can answer questions. But I just wanted to leave you with, this is my final slide, of Betty White. 93. Do we have time for questions? Any questions? I know Erin is here with the microphone. Yes. Oh!
Thank you so much. This was wonderful. I sometimes tell my students the fashion world is led by people with careers who are over 60, like
Yeah.
who leads? Anna Wintour, Karine Rothfeld, Grace Coddington, beloved Grace Coddington, Polly Ann Mellon, Diana Vreeland was 80. So it kind of gives them not hope, but they think like, boy, if you're good, you could stay in the fashion industry as long as you're good.
Yeah,
and
it's
not
true.
just at your age. So
Yes.
thank you. This is just great. This
Oh,
presentation was
thank
so
you.
wonderful.
No, I agree with that. It's kind of, and I think the whole online street style thing, like I said, has increased the visibility of women and also turned people like Anna Wintour and Karine Rothfeld into stars in their own right. And we see loads of images of them online. And I think that's a wonderful thing, you know. We recognise them for their talent as well as sort of what they're wearing. And and designers as well, like Diane von Furstenberg, Donna Karan, you know, all of these women
I never leave without my
are very successful, but then I suppose maybe it's, I don't know, some of the advertisers aren't sort of powerful women in their 60s, are they? And that's why we've seen in the past the focus on young women and teenage models and that kind of thing. But I do think it's changing. I do think it's been very slow to happen, but we are seeing a shift now, which is a wonderful thing, yes. Oh, sorry, could you say that again, please?
Would you like to make a comment in professional women's and fashion?
Professional women.
Yes, like I was a physician, and I have certain ideas, fashion, and that's what I'm talking about, is how important it is for women who are professionals.
Oh, yes. Well, you know what? I think for a very long time, women who were kind of serious businesswomen, you know, doctors or whatever their vocation, weren't really allowed to sort of have an interest in fashion, or, you know, it was seen as being a bit trivial, when really, you know, feeling good about yourself and feeling confident is so important. And why can't you be interested in fashion and be intelligent and do amazing, wonderful things? I think we've reached a point now. Last year in London, there was an exhibition at the Design Museum called Women Power Fashion, which was had lots of women from lots of different professions. One of them was Anne Hidalgo, I think, the mayor of Paris. There was Zaha Hadid, who is a world-famous architect. All of these women had picked out their favorite outfits, and we're talking about them and what it meant to them. So I do think it's, you know, I'm not saying it's important to everyone, but I don't see why you can't be interested in fashion and how you look and, you know, have a career doing whatever. Yes. I think we've got time.
I think it's very important to create an image when you're a professional.
Yeah.
And the way you dress establish who you are, because even before you open your mouth, you walk up in a place, and you dress in a certain way, and you make that kind of statement.
Yeah, people make a decision, is it not, within the first 3 seconds of meeting you or something, kind of like they've already sort of summed you up and sussed you out without, like you say, before you'd even opened your mouth. So obviously that is based on sort of what, you know, visual representation, yes. Any more? I think? No? Oh, well, thank you all very much.